Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first video, and the reason that I've created this channel is because that I've learned something in the previous weeks that I want to share with you guys, which I think you might find helpful in improving yourself. This is not a self-improvement channel. This is a progress channel. This is a changing your behavior channel. If you're not changing your behavior and not measuring your progress, I don't think there is any. Because how do you differentiate yourself from what you were before and what you are now? This is the main aim of my videos. This is the main aim of my channel, to actually change your behavior. Today, what I'm going to talk about is something that I see a lot of people struggle with, which is finishing or reading your books. There is something that I read on Twitter, is the difference between people who read and people who don't is getting extremely vast. The people who were reading before are now reading much more and much longer hours. And the people who are not reading are increasing significantly as well. You are either in the not reading group or you are either in the reading a lot group. So you need to know which group you are in. So the thing that people are struggling with, including me, is reading consistently. Let's see what actually happens here. So maybe you watch a reel on social media, or maybe you're reading a blog where someone recommends you to read a book to get X result or to get the desired result. You rush to Amazon and buy it the next day. You then start reading that book and maybe feel good for a few minutes. You learn a few things, but then it slowly starts to get boring. It slowly starts to get to that part which is actually boring, which is actually the fundamentals, which is actually very, very complex or highly difficult to understand. You get to that part, the book starts to get boring, and before you know it, you stop reading. And therefore, you don't just drop the book, you drop reading entirely. And this spiral continues over and over again with all the other books. This was my story as well. And if you don't change the way you approach reading right now, you will forever be stuck in this loop of just buying books over and over again and never actually applying the concepts to change your behavior, which is what you set out to do in the first place. Earlier, I used to think that starting a particular book and not being able to finish it was due to somehow my lack of attention or lack of my focus. Until I read this one thing by Naval Ravikant on Twitter, which is read what you love until you love to read. This really changed the way I look at reading right now. Before this, I was just trying to finish a book and read as much as possible. Until I realized that finishing books is just a vanity metric, and the more you know, the more you understand, the more books you leave unfinished. So I don't finish more books now, but I still somehow end up learning a heck of a lot. I'll give you an example. I was reading this book called Breathe recently, and the book is about how you should breathe, how breathing affects our sleep, how breathing affects our facial structure, how breathing affects a lot of different aspects of our life. And the main concept of the book is to breathe through your nose very slowly and very lightly and never use your mouth to breathe. I got this concept in the first two chapters, and then I asked ChatGPT to give me a summary. I got the concept of the book and I dropped the book. I did not finish that book. Maybe I might have missed a few things, but I got the overall idea about what I need to do with my breathing. I don't need to finish the whole book because the author is telling a lot of other things which are not valuable to me, which I might find boring, and I don't want to stop my reading. And when ChatGPT gave me a summary, I realized that what the book was about. There are only a handful of lines which I needed to remember, and I actually applied it to my life. I have actually changed my behavior through that. I started to use this mouth tape at night, which actually helps me breathe better. And I've been feeling very, very energetic in the morning. I've noticed this about myself. And there's a lot of energy. I've woken up at 6 a.m. for the past 3 days. I think there is some consequence of that mouth tape that I'm using at night. I have actually changed my behavior. I'm sure there are a lot of other insights that I might have missed, but I'm fine with it. I've got the concept. I'm trying to breathe slowly and breathe lightly and not deep and heavy breaths and very fast breaths. So the main thing is you don't have to finish the whole book. The important thing is not to finish the whole book, but to grab and understand the concepts of that book. The thing is to absorb the useful matter and discard what is not. If a book starts to get repetitive, just skip some parts. And you can skim read just to get the idea and to understand and realize that if the book is worth reading at all in the first place. Because it's the author's job to get you hooked. It's the author's job to explain concepts very clearly. If things get complex too quick and the reader cannot grasp what is happening in that book, it's the author's fault. By being a writer, we are assuming that you are a good explainer as well. It's not just about writing, unless you are reading quantum mechanics or mathematics, and which might actually have complex sums, but that is a different thing. And if you're reading books just to finish and brag them about it later to your friends or family, you're actually doing it the wrong way. I think reading a quarter or a half of a good book is much better than reading three full average books. If you are giving equal importance to all the chapters or all the lines or all the sentences in a book, then also you are doing something wrong, because not all chapters and not all sentences deserve equal attention. Some carry much more weight than the others. This is also something I read recently on Twitter, which said, I'd rather read the 100 greatest books ever written over and over and over again until I've absorbed those concepts completely than read 1,000 mediocre books. I think it's the same as portfolio concentration in some ways, because I'd rather put my money on my best bet rather than on my 10th best bet. They want to put their money in 100 stocks. They want to diversify for the sake of diversifying. And this is the same thing with books as well. If you want to read consistent, if you want to build a habit, if you want to understand and learn concepts, then you need to read what you love until you love to read. Just read to satisfy your own curiosity. You don't need any other reason. There is no mission to accomplish here. And in the start, it actually doesn't matter what you read, because eventually you will read so many things that you will get to a point where you start reading the actual good stuff. And then you will read enough of the good things that it will dramatically improve your life. Again, building a habit is important, but also there's a lot of junk out there. There's a lot of junk books out there that you should not read. Much more important is knowing what not to read. If you start with the books that you should not be reading, if you don't start with the basics, if you don't have a foundation layer to base your thoughts upon, to base your reason upon, then you actually cannot build up from the ground and you don't know what the truth is. So you might start with a book that is actually not speaking from first principles, the reasoning is not that well, and then you make it the base of your knowledge. And anything that you gain after that, you're trying to put it through the previous knowledge that you have. So it might not work very well. If you want to read something, start with the basics, start with the fundamentals. If you're reading economics, start with the fundamental economic book. If you're into atheism, start with the fundamental atheist book. But then again, this advice might not work for you. So I'd rather just say read what you love until you love to read. You might read fiction, you might read stupid books. Maybe you'll reach to a point where you start to actually read good books, and then you also learn the fundamentals along the way. It's not necessary to start with the basics. You can read with whatever you like. And if you can remember just one thing from this video, it would be this: that don't force yourself to read any book ever. Instead, find the one that you can't put down. So if you want to read more books, if you want to read effectively, and if you want to actually absorb what you are reading, then try and apply this advice. And if it works, let me know in the comment section.